moving on to prisms then, like pyramids, there are lots of types of prisms, each with a 2D shape at each end. So you can see here we've got a prism which looks like it's got a triangle on each end, and we've got another type of prism which has a five-sided shape, which remember is a pentagon on each end. So what do prisms have in common? So the two faces on either end are the same type of polygon, which means they have straight sides. So it doesn't go from a triangle to a square or a hexagon to a pentagon. It's the same on both sides. And these faces are joined by rectangles, which could include squares. It's also worth noting that those faces on each side, on each end, are the same size. So they're almost like they're parallel to each other, or it's like the shape has been lifted off the table. So a cylinder is not a prism because it has a circular ends and they have to have straight sides for it to be a polygon. What type of prism is a cuboid? Is a cube a prism? Well, they are both prisms because a cuboid has rectangles on each end, sorry, and a cube has squares, but they're both polygons. Rectangles and squares are polygons. So cuboids and cubes are both special types of prisms. So your challenge today is here for you to read and try and understand for yourself. There is a table a couple of slides on with an example of how you might set it out, but I'm not giving you that straight away. I want you to see if you can figure it out for yourself and use the shapes on this page to fill in the instructions for the table. Can you spot any patterns? So challenge 2 is similar to challenge 1 in the fact that there are some shapes to look at, some instructions. Again, there's an example table on the next slide. The answers are also subsequently if you want to check your answers. Good luck. Here's your extension. Can you predict the number of faces and vertices for a pyramid with a 12-sided base, or a 12-sided base or a 50-sided base? So based on what you know about pyramids on the previous work, you're able to make generalizations, and it's the same for prisms. Can you generalize, which is a difficult math skill to be able to master? So you could watch the video clip again, but today we're focusing on speech punctuation, something we have looked at this year in school and we've looked at previously in previous years, but I want to just touch on it because it's been a long time since we have done it. So I've got a few slides coming up which break down speech punctuation, and then you've got your activity to have a go at. So when we're punctuating speech, there are some rules that we have to remember, and some of those rules are based around using inverted commas, using punctuation correctly, and using a reporting clause. So in the next few slides go through all these different aspects. So one of the most important things when we're using speech punctuation is the fact that we have to use inverted commas, which are sometimes called speech marks, and these show you where the actual words that are being spoken are in the text. So you need to imagine that the inverted commas are a bit like hands that are holding the words which are spoken. So you only put the inverted commas around the words which come out of somebody's mouth, basically. We always do start inverted commas with a capital letter. Please note that. So even if it's coming after a comma, the first letter inside the inverted commas is always a capital letter. So a common mistake that some people make is not knowing where to put the punctuation within inverted commas when you're writing direct speech. So you need to either put a comma, a question mark, an exclamation mark within the inverted commas. And then you also need to put some punctuation at the end of your reporting clause if you've got that at the end of the sentence. So you've got some examples below. In terms of punctuation, like I said in the previous slide, it's really important that you always start your speech with a capital letter as well. The next thing to think about is using a reporting clause. So a reporting clause gives information about who is speaking and how it is said. So it usually includes a verb, which can be in the present tense or the past tense, which tells you how something is being said often, and usually usually it tells you who's doing the saying as well. And again, we can choose the verbs carefully, like claimed is something different to cried or different to whispered. It tells you something about how they're feeling or what the situation is. We can also add other things within the reporting clause, like adverbs, which again give you even more detail about how things are said and what the situation is. So the reporting clause doesn't always have to come at the end of speech, it can come before speech. So for example, it could be Matthew replied, "Don't worry, I'll help you." It can even come in the middle. So it could be, "Don't worry," Matthew replied, "I'll help you." So if that was to be the case, then you would put the speech punctuation, so the inverted commas only around the words which were spoken. Another thing to remember is that if a new person speaks, you start a new line as a speaker to help the reader understand who is saying what. So speech punctuation is all about being clear for the reader so they can follow what is happening and who is saying what when. So if you look below, there are some examples of speech with varying accuracy in terms of the speech punctuation that has been used, or the reporting clauses, or the other punctuation that's been used. So it's important that we are accurate all the time. So if you read through these sentences, and I'd like you to edit them and have a go at rewriting them correctly. Okay. There's also an extra challenge at the bottom for you as well.